Skin retouching in DaVinci Resolve usually goes one or two ways. You either spend ages building nodes and power windows, or you give up and send the shot to another app. Today, I'm testing two plugins that claim to simplify all of that: ReTouch4Me Heal and Dodge and Burn, running directly inside of DaVinci Resolve. Let's see if they actually save time or if they just create another step. In this video, I'm going to walk you through how these plugins work inside of DaVinci Resolve. I'll run them on real footage I've already shot, and I'll show you exactly what they do, both good and bad and not so good. The kind of result we're aiming for here in this video is the same sort of skin work you'd see in high-end commercials, beauty campaigns, and film. Clean, polished, but still believable. Now, just quickly before we get into it, if by the end of this video you decide these plugins are for you and you want to get them, I do have a discount code. You can use your20 YOUR20 to save some more money. And if you're watching before February 2026, you also avoid the new pricing coming. Either way, the code still works. All right, so once installed, both plugins will show up in the color page under effects. So if you go to the effects, if you don't have it enabled, click up there in the color page. Make sure in the color page, you could be in the edit or in this other edits. Usually it will be in the color page. You go to effects and then you can type in the search under library, retouch or heal. So if I type retouch, that comes up. You can see Dodge, Burn, OFX, or you can see ReTouch4Me Heal, OFX. Usually I like to have my favorites enabled so I can quickly scroll, and then you can see it under the ReTouch4Me OFX submenu if you'd like, in the library side of the effects. So the first thing I usually would do before I apply my plugins is to do your CST. And because I have it in the favorite, I'll drag it to the second node. I have 4 nodes. Before we go ahead to do anything, what I'll do is label my nodes. I'll call that CST. I'll call my first node exposure or primaries. The second one or the third one would be my heal. And the last one will be Dodge and Burn, DB. Usually your DB should come after your heal, or your heal should come before your DB. So once I've already dragged my CST and I'll do my CST color space transform, I shot this on a Panasonic S1R2. So I'll go to P, you should know this already, Panasonic V gamma, that's my input color space, and input gamma. I'll select Panasonic V-Log, that's it. For my output color space, I would do Rec 709, so Rec 709, and the output gamma as gamma 2.4. Nice, simple, and easy. All I have to now do is drag and drop down to the node, just like any other effect. There's no exporting frames, no round tripping to Photoshop or anything like that. Everything stays within DaVinci Resolve, and that alone already makes life easy. All right, so now we've done that. I'll start with the heal process because that one's designed to deal with small skin issues like spots, acne, and minor texture problems. So right away, I'll go into the heal node, or before I even going to do that, I'll go to my exposure and just kind of like add a little bit of contrast. I'll use the primaries. Let me go to primaries. I'm using a mini panel so you won't see the mouse move around. But for the sake of this, let me use the mouse, and I'll apply some contrast as I like. So look at my scope, see what's happening on the scopes. I would apply some contrast as I like. Maybe bring the pivot a little bit down. Maybe bring in my highlights a tiny bit, yeah. And maybe bring down the gamma a tiny bit. Right there is fine. This is before and this after. The next thing I'll do is maybe add a little bit of saturation, just a tad bit, so her skin pops. So I like it there. Maybe I'll leave it at 80, or maybe, let me see my vector scope if I'm pushing it too much. That's fine. I'll leave it there. Go back to parade. So you can see the blemishes in her skin. I'll zoom in a bit. I hope YouTube compression doesn't damage this. You can see these are my birthmarks. So we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So Emma, that's Emma, my subject. I would drag the heal OFX or heal plugin onto the heal node, and boom, See the magic? See what happens? It's already doing something there. The main control here is intensity, and this is where you need to be careful so you don't push it too far or it become over smoothing. So the sensitivity right now is at 95. Input color space Rec 709, which is what I'm working. I can set it to log if I was working in log, but I'm working in the Rec 709 color space. Already done my CST. So maybe I can bring it down a tiny bit to maybe 90, but already the default settings for me is fine, absolutely fine. I don't need to do any other thing. And straight away, it's working fine. What else do we need to do? Let's go to the dodge and burn. I'll go to the dodge and burn and I'll drag the dodge and burn effect. But before I do that, I just wanted to let you guys know the heal tool knows that there's a face. It's done its calculation and it's applied the corrections to the face. In some instances, you may want to take it a step further where you isolate her face and then apply, but I don't want to do all that. And you see, I didn't need to do that. That would be, if I was doing it the manual way inside DaVinci Resolve using DaVinci's native tools, or have to isolate the face and reduce the mid-tone blur. This is just quick and simple. And so moving on to dodge and burn, I'll drag the dodge and burn OFX and apply it on my DB. I can see what is happening. I'll turn off the dodge and burn. Let's go back to heal. This is before and this is after. Go back to dodge and burn. This is before and this is after. And you can see that subtle thing it's doing to the face. You know, it's just removing, softening up the shadows and the highlight. And what I like to do is bring it down from 75 to around, let's say 55. Yeah, 55 is kind of where I like it, so it's not too much applied. So this is before and this is after. This is before and this is after. I hope user compression allows you guys to see. So just before her, the top of her eye and just underneath of the eyes, you see some darkening in the before, and overall her cheekbone, you can see that it's a little bit dark, and I've kind of like evened out everything. And you notice the heal and dodge and burn didn't kill out the skin texture. There's still some skin texture in her face. I'll highlight everything and with Command D, I disable the heal and the dodge and burn, and I'll enable it. You can see her texture, her skin texture is still there. It's not making her look fake. I'll go to the next one, which is a podcast my wife and I run in the studio here. And this is everything before applying CST, exposure, playing with the exposure, contrast, saturation, apply anything. And I'll just go to CST, I'll apply my color space transform. First of all, we know it's Panasonic as usual. And I apply my output color space, which is Rec 709, gamma 2.4 for the output gamma. So I'll select 2.4. And she's already looking, you know, alive. Footage is now looking more alive. What I'll do is go into my exposure for this. I'll use my mini panel, apply some contrast, maybe lift up the highlights a bit and the gamma and bring, just to bring out. Then add some saturation. I'll go to my offset and maybe take it towards the reds a tiny bit. So I like it here, and I'll zoom into her face and you can see the blemishes on her face. Maybe look for a place that it's steady. So let's keep it here, and you can see the blemishes on her face already. In this clip, my wife has already applied some makeup, and she's a host of a show called the 91 Podcast. You can check it up. I'll leave a link in the description. She's applied makeup, but you can see some skin stuff, some blemishes on her skin. And let's see what the heal and dodge and burn tool can do. First of all, I'll apply the heal OFX. And once I drop it, so take a look at her face now. And this is now applied. So this is before, after. With this, I don't even need to do anything. I don't need to do anything. With the makeup she's applied on, and then with this is done. This is just smoothing her skin. If I want to maybe just turn it down a bit for the sake of turning it down, I'll just bring it down to 85 in the sensitivity slider. So this is 85 and this is before and after. You can still see her skin texture. You know, it's not making her look fake. The next thing I'll do is the dodge and burn. I'll just drag and drop. And voila, it's softened out the shadows and the highlight. So this is before, this is after. As usual, I like to tone it down to around 50, 55. Let me bring it down to 55. I think 55 is very nice. This is before and this is after. Now I'll do the same thing for the guest, who is a male figure. I'll drag it here and I'll quickly do a CST. You know, I'll go back to the previous clip. I'll copy the CST and I'll apply it and I'll copy the exposure. Let's see what that does and go back here and I'll apply. Now, just want to let you guys know, if you look at the guest's face, you can see there's a wound here. There's the blemishes, there's a hole here in his ear. You can see the wrinkles on his face. Let's see what it does. I'll go into the heal node. I'll drag the heal. Boom. You see, it cleaned out the wound. It took out the thing that was there close to his ear and closed up the ear hole. And you see, it didn't try to remove the wrinkle, which would make him look so artificial if it ever did that. Usually, I'll bring it down to like 85 in terms of the sensitivity slider. And this is before, and this is after. Before, after. Once more, before, after. It cleans out so nicely and keeps everything looking still natural. I'll go to the dodge and burn. I'll drag the dodge and burn plugin and I'll drop it there. And see what it did to the darkest or the dark shadow part of his face and the bright spots in his face. So before, after, before, after. You can even see the forehead. This is before, after. As usual, I'll just bring it down to around 55 thereabout. So it's not overly done. So this is before disabling both plugins, before and after. Before and after. So you've seen I added them on separate nodes to have the effect. So use lightly, it gives you that polished look. If you push these plugins too far, things start to look fake. These effects are great for talking head videos like the podcast you're seeing, interviews, fashion or beauty work. This combination makes a lot of sense. Heal removes the distractions while dodge and burn helps us in shaping the face. The biggest advantage is always time. What normally would take multiple nodes, power windows, tracking, blurring, playing with your mid-tone details, rendering is done in a few seconds, you know. And this works very well for YouTube content, social media, quick client turnaround. You see what I've done on the computer and how these plugins are so effective. But there are a few situations where these plugins can struggle. Low resolution footage, heavy makeup, or badly lit shots. So make sure you've got these things covered. Make sure you've got these things right in camera. These things won't fix themselves by themselves. Performance-wise, you feel it on slower systems. I usually disable the plugins while editing and turn them back on for the final render. Now, when it comes to pricing and value of these plugins, these are paid plugins. So whether they're worth it really depends on how often you retouch faces. At the time of recording, ReTouch4Me Heal starts at $156 instead of $224 thanks to the winter sale, and it works in DaVinci Resolve, Nuke, Vegas Pro, Natron, and a Simulate Scratch. While Dodge and Burn is currently $224 instead of $349, and that one supports Premiere Pro. So the Heal is now available for Premiere Pro. Dodge and Burn is available for Premiere Pro. So you've seen it for yourselves. What do you think? Are these plugins worth it? Let me know in the comments. But that also really depends on the type of work you do and the clients you work with. If you're shooting documentaries, weddings, fashion or beauty stuff, where speed and consistency matter, these can save you a lot of time. They're not a replacement for skill. They're tools that speed things up. Used gently, they look natural. Overused or used too aggressively, they begin to make an image fall apart. And yes, they can be heavy on system resources, especially during render. So that's something to keep in mind. I'd say if it's too much of a clip you're working on, render it overnight. Now, I'll leave links to everything below. Don't forget to use my code YOUR20, your 20 if you decide to pick them up. If you've got any questions, drop it in the comments and let me know what you think. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. It's your Filmmaker. Thanks for watching. God bless and peace.